Welcome to Beyond the Underground Railroad. My name's Stephen Cook. I'm the curator of Uncle Tom's Cabin Historic Site in Dresden, Ontario.
Hi everyone, I'm Samantha Meredith and I'm the Executive Director Curator at the Chatham-Kent Black Historical Society and Black Mecca Museum in Chatham, Ontario.
Hello, my name is Shannon Prince and I'm the Curator of the Buxton National Historic Site Museum in North Buxton, Ontario. I'd like to begin by acknowledging the lands that we are presently broadcasting from. We acknowledge that we are on the lands of the Anishinaabe Nation. This spot where we gather is the traditional land of the Three Fires Confederacy, the Ottawa, Potawatomi, and Ojibwe. We also recognize that this land is now home to the Delaware Nation. This land was settled through the McKee Purchase Treaty of 1790, and we, as beneficiaries of the treaty, must recognize our responsibilities, including our collective responsibilities to the land and water.
And so this is the first in what we hope is going to become a series of lectures where we talk with different people within not only the Chatham-Kent community, but throughout Ontario that celebrate the history of the African-Canadian presence here in the province. And this inaugural edition, we are going to be commemorating Black History Month. And we thought it'd be a good idea to give a little bit of background on Black History Month. The push for recognizing Black achievement began with American author and historian Carter G. Woodson. In 1926, he proposed an observance to honor the accomplishments of Black Americans. He called it Negro History Week, and it was later renamed Black History Week. And he chose the second week of February because it marks the birthdays of renowned abolitionist Frederick Douglass and United States President Abraham Lincoln, who's credited with the abolition of American slavery. In 1976, it was changed to Black History Month in the United States. Now here in Canada, through the efforts of the Ontario Black History Society, the House of Commons in Canada officially recognized Black History Month in 1995. That's when the Honorable Jean Augustine, the first Black female member of Parliament, introduced the motion, and it was unanimously adopted. And guys, I was reading an article that she was presenting last year for Black History Month, and she said it was a long, long journey to get that recognition. And we here in Canada present ourselves as a just society, and she is intending on making it just and fair for everybody in the society. And I think she's really a trailblazer in getting this recognition for Black History Month, and it's why we celebrate it today. Your thoughts on Black History Month?
To me, it's also a time to acknowledge, celebrate, and commemorate, like you were saying, the commemoration, and ongoing legacies of the many African Canadians that have contributed to shaping this great mosaic. I think because so many have been forgotten, the first Black Canadian doctor and, congressmen and people that were responsible for passing laws and bylaws. There were so many people that were instrumental, and it's time to acknowledge that. It's just to increase that knowledge base with everyone around, again, because it's not just Black history, it's everyone's history, and it should be celebrated daily.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. You know, these histories are too often left out of our textbooks, and these are the men and the women who built our cities, our communities, our country, and Black History Month is a great time to acknowledge those stories, share those stories, and celebrate Black history that's Canadian history.
It is. And it's also talking about the diversity of the Blacks that were responsible. There were the kings and the queens and the entrepreneurs and the inventors that you don't normally hear about. So it's time to bring and shed some light on those important figures as well.
And I think we as those that have carried up the mantle from those that went before us, I think we could probably all agree that when we were in school, we weren't taught about our forefathers and their many accomplishments. We didn't see our narrative in the history books. And I think that's one of the many aims that we hope to accomplish with this series, is to let people know of the Black identity so that young people can see themselves in the story and the fabric of the country of Canada. So this is our inaugural edition. We hope to do more in the future. The next one will be surrounding our diversity symposium that the 3 sites are going to partner with the Chatham-Kent District School Board on, to talk about identity and race. And that'll happen in the spring. And it actually coincides with what you do in the spring. Isn't that right, Sam?
Yes, so every spring we have the CK Black History Symposium, so it'll be right around the same time as that.
And then we'll follow with another session in the summer for the Uncle Tom's Cabin Emancipation Day celebration. And we'll button everything in the fall with you, Shannon. And what do you have coming?
Our 98th Labor Day homecoming celebration. Hopefully we will be able to come back and reunite this year, personally as opposed to virtually. But we will be doing something. Wonderful,
wonderful. So let's begin.
Our first speaker for our event today is Angel Pinek, who is a Hamilton-born based film writer and artist. He is trained in theater and has also acted in film, and much of his own work centers on the experiences of underrepresented and racialized peoples in Canada. Angel has done a wonderful documentary, and it's entitled The North Star, Finding the Black Mecca, and it will be presented at several Black film festivals. And he is here today to discuss his project and to share, I hope, some insights about the project. Welcome, Angel.
Thank you for having me.
So give us a little background about how this project took shape, and who you interviewed.
Sure. So the story starts in Nova Scotia. Actually, I met a friend of Buxton's, I guess you could say, Theo Gibson, who performed at homecoming before, and I was with a group of people from North Preston, which is the largest Black community in Canada, and he was telling us about North Buxton, and we were all pretty intrigued by it, and it was just something that I started looking into and researching, and I learned about Chatham and Down Settlement and Buxton, and I was pretty impressed by the history. So. 2 of my friends and I, we came down to the area to just learn more about the history and get to know the people in the area. So Godford and Torrin, who were the co-producers of this film, we went down and we were all pretty impressed, and we thought we can make a story, especially for the youth, especially for young people, to kind of bring them into the history and give them sort of just a helicopter kind of view of a very vast history in the area. So we came down and we spent homecoming weekend 2019 and traveling between Dresden, Chatham, and Buxton, and we talked to a lot of the community members and just tried to tie together the stories of the area.
So how receptive were the people that you approached? Were they agreeable? Did you hit roadblocks along the way?
Everyone so far was pretty agreeable. Everyone that we talked to was pretty welcoming and open. I think Stephen's smiling. We didn't get a chance to interview him, but otherwise, everybody else was very receptive and open.
I would have loved the opportunity to talk to you folks. We had a discussion, or we're going to have a discussion a little bit later today about the National Unity Association, which I'm sure you're familiar with now. And whenever I'm talking about that story, I lament the fact that having grown up here in Dresden, I wasn't taught about all of the rich Black history that exists right here in our own little town of 2,700 people. There's a whole block downtown that was all Black-owned businesses. And going through the education system here in Chatham-Kent, I wasn't taught about any of that. So I'm really encouraged to hear that your main focus is to reach out to the education sector and share with them about the importance so that they can have a sense of identity and connection to the Black narrative here.
Absolutely. And all of us, Torrin, Godford, and myself, Godford, I think, just turned 30, but all of us were in our 20s when we came and filmed this film. So we know what it's like to go through the educational system. And you know, you learn the history, but a lot of times when you're watching these historical documentaries, it's not made for young people. It's not made for the youth. It's not made to engage them. So I think we wanted to try to do something a little different, because the historians will learn about this information. People interested in history will find out about it, but we want to engage that group right there.
Mm-hmm. Now, how are you going to be able to get the documentary out? Do you have a contract with any of the television studios so that you can reach a wider audience?
Yeah, so one TV station's picked it up. We still have to approach CBC. We want to try to get it on CBC Gem. So if anyone from CBC is watching, you know, reach out.
Yeah.
Eastlink's picked it up, which is a station based in the Maritime provinces in Alberta, Northern Ontario. So it's going to be shown on TV sometime in Black History Month in those provinces. And then we got picked up by quite a few festivals. So a couple of the ones coming up are the Denton Black Film Festival, which is an amazing Black film festival out of Texas. So it's cool that the story has traveled that far. And then there's the Toronto Black Film Festival, which is coming up this month as well, as in February. So looking forward to that. And then we'll kind of see how things roll out. No, it's okay. We'll see how things roll out from that point on.
I was going to say now would be a perfect time to give people a little snippet of the promo.
Sure, absolutely.
And I tell people that I'm Canadian, they don't believe me, especially when I tell them that the Black side of me is Canadian. Black people in Canada are often seen as outsiders, as not Canadian, but when it comes to this particular area, Chatham wouldn't be Chatham without Black people.
Even before the Civil War, people thought of it as a colored man's Paris. They talked about the educational opportunities.
Education was so powerful. You know, denied one in the South, you're coming to Canada, you've got freedom, you embrace it.
Fugitive slaves would come here as well as free Blacks because of the high Black population that was in the Chatham area.
Black people were the people who built and founded and did some of the initial groundwork in these areas.
Everything wasn't rosy, and it just never will be.
As time went on, things actually got more and more segregated over the course of the 19th century.
You wouldn't think that there would be that, discrimination, but there was quite a bit because of their color, their skin. They were denied.
Actually, it was the first time that racism has ever been on a ballot in the court system in Canada.
It's empowering to know where you have come from, but it's more important to have a plan and to focus on where you want to get to.
We are what we are. We are what we are.
So I think that it's important that everybody knows about these people because these are the people who made a change in Canada.
Take the journey. Become who you're supposed to be.
So the trailer looks like such a great movie to check out. And you mentioned watching it at film festivals and stuff. Now, when you were producing this documentary, did you face any challenges with it?
I think one of the challenges biggest challenge that we faced was trying to get so much information and try to make it digestible. So how do we tell a story that's takes hundreds of years? It's, interconnected communities. It's not just Buxton, Dresden, Chatham. There's also stories from, other areas around there too. So how do we tell such a deep history in a short amount of time? I think that was the toughest part. So we try to do our best there.
Yeah, exactly. And I know once people watch the film, if they're interested in this kind of stuff, they'll come out to the museums and sites around the area and find out more of the stories.
Absolutely. I think that's why it was so important to interview people that are still there in the communities and to showcase places like, the three important sites like the Black Historical Museum in Chatham, the Uncle Tom's Cabin, and the Buxton National Historic Site. So if people are interested, they can always go down and learn more about it. There's, a wealth of books. There's so many movies. There's so much resources out there. So this is sort of an introduction to get them interested, and hopefully it'll bring a lot more interest.
When the when the documentary is ready, you'll have to be sure to reach out to all of us so we can help promote it through our social media. We'd love to do that with and for you. So make sure you stay in touch with us.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Definitely. Yes. And we'd love to host it too.
Okay.
We'll talk. We'll talk.
Absolutely.
So that was wonderful. So thank you so much, Angel, for coming today and sharing that, your insight and your expertise and your talent and giving of your time, because you and the rest of your team, you did that all on your own, and really applaud you guys for doing that, taking a step and inspiring others and opening up your talent and your stories to share with others. So thank you so much. Take care.
Thank you for having me.
Our next speaker today is Brock Greenhalgh, the author of A Hard Road to Victory. He has been telling the story of the 1934 Chatham All-Stars team in one form or another for the past 30 years. He was first introduced to the team as a university undergrad during a summer stint at the Chatham-Kent Museum in 1989. He realized that the team's story was something special. 30 years later, as he approached his 50th birthday, Brock drafted up a list of 50 things he wanted to accomplish by the time that big birthday rolled around. Writing and publishing a children's book about the All-Stars was on the top of that list. So Brock, why don't you start by telling us about the book?
Oh, wow. Thanks for that introduction, Sam. I got to tell you, it's been a whirlwind. I've got the book here with me, and it's one of those things where I knew this story, as you said. I've known this story since 1989, and it's always been in the back of my mind. But it took me coming up to that 50th birthday to think about how, what sort of mark am I going to leave? I spend my days as a guidance counselor working with grade 7 and grade 8 students. And I talk to them all the time about being creative and being passionate about things. And I thought, this is my chance to put my money where my mouth is and actually do something. So this book was supposed to have come out last April when I was 50. But then this little thing called COVID came along and put a stop to that. But it's been an amazing experience. I had reached out to a couple of illustrators, and these illustrators they're teenagers. They're 17 and 18-year-old students here in Kitchener. And I told them the story. I walked them through it. I said, I'd love for these illustrations to look like it was the 1930s, and I want them to be watercolors. And I was completely blown away with the work that these two gentlemen did. So it's been a learning experience for me, for sure, and it's given me an opportunity to reach out to a whole bunch of other people.
Do you have any pictures? Can you just open the book quickly, just to show us one, if you don't mind?
Sure. There's a couple of them. I'll show you one of my favorites. This is one of my favorites here, and I don't know how well you can see that.
Yeah, there we go.
Yep. So this is a photo, or this is an illustration of the team returning home from Penetanguishene for the second game. And the thing that I really, really love about this is I try to imagine what life would have been like in 1934 driving from Penetanguishene down to Chatham, or the other way around, dirt roads and dusty and bumpy, but imagining the stories that would have been told in those trucks on that ride. So that's one of them. The other picture that I just absolutely love is this one here. This was done about the team walking down the street to the baseball diamond when the game was in Chatham. And the rain was falling, and the crowds had come out to watch them, and I was just totally amazed at how clear and how vivid these images were, based on the fact that I had given them an explanation of the story, and in some cases I'd given them some photographs and those kinds of things. But I was blown away.
Wow, quite impressive.
Very, very much so. And for the one boy, Daniel, is just finishing high school, and Lazar is in his first year at college. So they've got bigger and better things ahead of them for sure.
Yeah.
So with the publication of the book, Brock, what do you think is the most important story you want to share through the story of the ball team?
You know what, Stephen? I've got 3 goals, and the first goal is to get the story out there. I grew up in Chatham, and as Sam said, the first time I saw or knew about the team was when I was working at the museum, and that was in '89. So that was 55 years after they'd won the championship, and I'd never heard of this team before. So at that point, I did the math in my head, and I thought this team won a major championship at least a decade or more before Jackie Robinson broke the color barrier in Major League Baseball. What an amazing story that should be told. And then when I started doing the research and digging into it, it just opened up my eyes, and it allowed me to do a whole bunch of other things. I wrote about it as my 4th-year thesis. I did a radio documentary. So yeah, getting it out there. I'll tell you, I was doing a Google Meet this morning with a grade 4 class in Nova Scotia. And I shared the book. I read the book to them. We had a great discussion afterwards. And again, you know, they would never, ever have heard this story before, but at least getting it out there. And the things that happened in that book 90 years ago, we know those things are still happening today. Mm-hmm. The second big thing is to raise money for the museums in Chatham, because, you know, you've been dealing with COVID, shut down. This is not my story. Right? All I am is the storyteller. I have no idea what this would have been like for these gentlemen back in the 1930s. And I don't claim it as my own. I want to make sure that the funds that come from the book are given to people who are going to be able to make use of it, and to continue the great work that's been done so far in Buxton and in Chatham and in Dresden. And the third thing, this team needs to be inducted into the Canadian Baseball Hall of Fame. Mm-hmm. The pitcher for the Penetanguishing team, his name was Phil Marshall, and had an amazing career in the major leagues. He's in the Canadian Baseball Hall of Fame. So that's my question. They've been on the ballot for the last few years, and they need a little push. So I think I might be driving the people crazy at the Hall of Fame, because every time I do a Google Meet with these classes, I ask them to write a letter and send it to the Hall of Fame to say, hey, look, this team, you're forgetting all about them. It was 90 years ago, but we still need to make sure that we recognize this team.
Oh, that's great.
So, Brock, can you tell everybody watching today where they can get copies of the book at?
Yes, you can stop by and you can bother Sam at the Black Mecca Museum. Now, it's still closed, am I thinking, Sam? So if you contact Sam, you can reach out and she'll get your copy. The other thing, and you're the first to know this, I'm not going to tell too many people, the Sons of Kent Brewery has made a special beer in honor of the baseball team.
Wow.
And it's amazing.
No, Shannon.
And the great thing is, again, they're donating some of their proceeds to the museum. And you can pick up copies of the book there as well, too. So beers and books.
What a better combination.
Can't go wrong.
I've got my website up and running. It's also available on Amazon for those people who may not be able to get into Chatham. So it's all over the place. But if you have that chance to stop by the museum or reach out to Sam, or I just sent 200 signed copies down to Sons of Kent. So stop on by. I think the beer is going to be ready kind of mid-February, but they'll do a much better job than I will of promoting that. But that's another great spot that you can stop in.
Nice.
Awesome. Thank you.
Great
Does
job.
anybody have any other questions?
No, just want to wish you the best, Brock, in this continued outreach you're doing to especially the young kids and getting that story out there and the importance of it. So all the best with that.
Thank you
And
very
thank
much.
your students. That's just amazing. I didn't realize that they were the ones who were doing the watercolors. For some reason, I was thinking it was you, and I thought, wow, he is multi-talented.
No, you would not want me to do the illustrations for this book. But these guys, yeah, they are top notch, and I'm doing another book. It's going to be released at the end of this year in November, and one of the illustrators is going to work with me again. So it's an amazing experience, and you know, for everyone else out there, don't wait until you're 51 to get a book published.
Thank you so much, Brock, for joining us today. And if there's any educators or teachers watching, they can get in touch with you to do one of those Google Meets during the time. Yeah. Perfect. Well, thank you so much for joining us.
All right, thank you very much.
Our next speaker today is Blair Newby with the Chatham-Kent Museum. Museums, as well as preservation and promotion of heritage, has always played an integral part in Newby's life. Drawn to a history at a young age, Newby graduated with an honors bachelor's degree in history with a focus on African Canadian studies from the University of Waterloo and a master's in museum studies from the University of Toronto. With over 15 years of experience in heritage, Newby is currently the coordinator of museum programs for the municipality of Chatham-Kent. Welcome, Blair Newby, today. Blair,
welcome.
By telling us about who the National Unity Association is.
Well, first and foremost, thank you for having me, especially since this is a topic that is near and dear to my heart. In Canada, there's always been a perception that no racism exists or that prejudice never existed here. And this belief stems from what one scholar has referred to as the romanticizing of the Underground Railroad. Since Blacks found freedom from enslavement here, in Canada, it's simply been accepted that there was no racism. However, within Chatham-Kent, Black Canadians could not eat in some of the restaurants or have their hair done in salons or barbershops that were some of the ones that were owned here, or even purchase goods in some of the shops. But then in 1948, after years of being treated as second-class citizens, African Canadians from Dresden, Chatham, and North Buxton banded together to fight against the segregation that plagued their community and formed the National Unity Association. As crusaders for justice, their hard work led to two provincial acts, the Fair Employment Practices Act and the Fair Accommodations Practices Act, the first being passed in 1951 and the second being passed in 1954. Their victories, however, led in the field of human rights, made it possible for further Human Rights Act to be passed down the line throughout Ontario and also across Canada.
So Blair, we understand that there's going to be a new exhibit about the NUA coming to the museum. So can you tell us a little bit about what we might expect to see and just how people might be affected by it?
We are absolutely thrilled to be actually partnering with all of your museums to be bringing this incredible story to life. The exhibit that we will be putting on will trace the courageous story of the National Unity Association's crusade for justice and their determination to end practices of segregation within Chatham-Kent as well as Ontario, as well as looking at the ongoing fight for equality here in Canada. An objective of the exhibit is to encourage our visitors to contemplate on how they themselves can actually assist and support the creation of a more fair and equitable community by providing historical context for honest discussions about race and social justice.
And you know, I think it's such a timely topic right now with what is happening across America between Black Lives Matters and what just happened at the Capitol building in DC to bring this history to life. Like you say, they put those blinders on thinking that, you know, it happens all around us, this discrimination, but it doesn't happen here in Chatham-Kent. So this is very, very timely. Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you for having me.
Blair, I wanted to follow up on, I'm broadcasting here from Dresden, and Dresden, as you know, became a real lightning rod for the racism that was being experienced and by the Blacks here in the town. Can you talk a little bit about why that was, and maybe a little bit about Hugh Burnett and his role in the National Unity Association?
Yes, certainly. So after so it was actually, Hugh Burnett was one of the founding members of the National Unity Association, and he actually tried to be served here in Dresden while wearing the King's uniform at the time, and he was refused service even while wearing a service, like a military uniform, and he was just perplexed at how a community that actually was founded around or close to a former freedom seeker community could have gone down this path to where Blacks were being refused service. And even in Dresden, as you said, was like the focal point for this. And it's actually where a lot of the testing occurred. Following the passage of the Fair Accommodations Practices Act, I would say, well, actually the reports have said, like, out of 10 complaints that were coming into the Department of Labor, 8 of those were coming from Dresden because people were being refused service. The majority of all the complaints were coming in from the Dresden area. And so then you had the National Union Association working in conjunction with Toronto organizations. And you had testing starting during this period where people of African descent as well as Chinese descent would travel down from Toronto and actually test the restaurants. And it wasn't until Judge Harold Lang presided over the case that one of the proprietors was actually, his conviction was upheld. And that was, I believe, in 1956, 2 years after the act was passed, when Morley McKay, who was the owner of Kay's Cafe, was actually convicted under Section 5 of the Fair Accommodations and Practices Act for refusing to serve to Trinidadian-born trade unionists, University of Toronto students within his cafe.
And I think it's a testament to people can change and attitudes can change, in that I grew up here in the town of Dresden, and it wasn't until I started working at the museum when I was in my early 20s that I knew about this history that had happened right here in our background, or in our backyard. So growing up here at that time when I did, in the 1970s and 80s, I didn't experience that type of racism that they had, like people like Hugh Burnett and the members of the NUA and the Black business owners and farmers here. So it's a testament, I think, to how people can change. And I know there's more work to be done, but I think we're definitely on the right path.
Most certainly.
Now, how can people view the exhibit? Do you have a launch date yet, or?
We don't have an exact launch date, but it will be fall 2021. But they'll hopefully they'll be able to come in person to view it, depending on where we are with, unfortunately, with the Reopening Act. Prior to the closures, people had to book online to be able to visit our museum, but hopefully we won't have to worry about that in the fall of 2021. But they'll be able to just come to the Chatham-Kent Museum and explore this very rich history that Chatham-Kent has.
Essie Adujan is a Canadian author who you may know of. She wrote a book in 2011 called Half-Blood Blues. And for that, she won Canada's most prestigious literary prize, the Scotia Giller Prize. And what's remarkable is that once again in 2018, Miss Adujan won the Giller Prize again. She's one of only 3 people to have won it twice. The Ontario Heritage Trust is planning a lecture to have Essie Adujan speak to us about the research that went into her most recent book, Washington Black. And here to speak with us today is the organizer of the lecture. It's Dawson Bridger. He's the manager of Public Education and Community Development at the Ontario Heritage Trust. Welcome, Dawson.
Welcome. Thanks for having me here. I'm excited to speak with you all.
So tell us a bit about this series of lectures that you've done in the past. What is your hope to accomplish with them?
Yeah, it's a great question. So we've been hosting a lecture like this since 2007. And so what we've really set out to do with this series is to expand people's understanding of the history and heritage of the province of Ontario, to have a more complete view and understanding of it, and to bring in new voices and I think new people to be interested in the subject. So We've worked in the past with speakers like Dr. Wade Davis, who's a National Geographic explorer in residence and anthropologist. The Cree painter Kent Monkman is doing some phenomenal work in bringing a lot of visibility to Indigenous artists across Canada. And last year we hosted a roundtable in London looking at the power of adaptive reuse to bring new ideas out of old buildings. So we're really excited that this year we've got a new name, Heritage Matters Live, and launching with Essie Adujan and continuing this great series.
So this series, this will be posted through the Trust, I'm assuming?
Yes, typically we've been running these events in an in-person format. So last year we were able to do this in person. We had about 1,000 people come to the Winter Garden Theatre in downtown Toronto for an in-person event. But of course this year that wasn't possible. So we're hosting the event virtually this year with pre-recorded segments, which have given us some new opportunities as well to bring in great community questions and hear from a variety of people. And we're really excited with this opportunity, and we're going to be virtually hosting it in Dresden, Ontario at Uncle Tom's Cabin Historic Site, which we're also really excited about.
So do you have dates for the lecture? Is it only going to be done once, or where is it going to be listed? Sorry.
It's a great question. We want people to be able to register. So the event is available by pre-registration. So it's free to participate, which is great. And if you go to our website, if you visit heritagetrust.on.ca/HML, that will take you to the registration page, and you'll see the dates. We've got 5 screenings. We have 2 screenings that are set up for students, and this event is great for grades 7 and above. And they're on February 18th and 23rd. And the window to watch the 70-minute presentation will be from 8 a.m. until noon. And then for the general public, we have 3 broadcasts on February 25th, on March 11th, and March 16th. And the window to view that presentation is from 5 p.m. to 9:30 p.m. So again, registration is free. I'd say, get this into your calendar as soon as you can, because I think it's really something that people aren't going to want to miss.
Is there going to be a limit? Sorry, Sam. Is there going to be a limit number of participants?
No, that's one of the great other opportunities that the digital format gives us. So, if you want to watch it, if you want to register for each one, you can. If you want to see it a few times, and there's no cap on the number of viewers. So that's really wonderful. We really wanted to make it available to as many people as possible. And also just note that we are working with the CBC radio show and podcast Ideas. And after the event, we'll be producing an episode of their show based around this content, so that people will be able to check out that as well. And there'll be some additional interviews that Ideas will be conducting with Essie Adujan.
And Dawson, you've brought with you today a little promo for the lecture. So let's take a look at that now.
I'm Zatara Freeman.
And I'm Caprice Freeman.
Hello, my name is Irene Moore Davis.
My name is Nina Reed Maroney.
My name is Dr. Brian Walls.
Our question for you is...
My question is...
Essie, my question for you today is this.
My name is Essie Adujan. Join me and the Ontario Heritage Trust as I talk about some of the background research for my novel Washington Black, which touches on themes of identity, belonging, and displacement.
That looks like a very interesting lecture. I can't wait to tune in. So Dawson, you had mentioned earlier how you were able to engage with the community for this project. Can you let us know a little bit about that?
Yeah, well, I think this is central to how we're looking to approach and interpret history and heritage with the Ontario Heritage Trust. So, a big part of our focus in the last 5 to 10 years has been what we're calling shifting or expanding the narrative. So again, really looking to broaden people's understanding of what our history and heritage are, and that there are sometimes competing, visions and versions of those, histories and heritage. So again, we've tried to ensure that in looking to tell stories, that we're engaging in authentic discussions and conversations, and that the communities whose stories we're looking to tell and share are able to be told in their own voices. So looking to partner with leaders in the Black heritage sector and young people to ask questions, I think is a very important way to engage those communities in this subject, and making sure that we're representing a lot of perspectives here, and that people see themselves reflected and heard in our programming.
Awesome.
One last question for you, Dawson, before we let you go. The book that S.E. Edugyan is going to talk about is Washington Black. Can you just give us a brief overview of what that book is about, in case somebody wants to get a copy before the first airing of your lecture?
Sure. Yeah, it's a great question, Stephen. It's a wonderful book, as you mentioned, winner of the Scotiabank Giller Prize, and it's historical fiction, which is something that Miss Edugyan has kind of, I think, built her writing career around. The book starts on a plantation in the 1830s in the Caribbean, and really goes on around the world, sort of Victorian adventure from there. The main character, Washington, escapes from freedom he is able to escape from the plantation, and through his journey, you follow his path to freedom, and it's an exciting adventure story at its heart that's really richly told. And you'll find yourself transported through, North America, Europe, the Arctic, and it's a real wonderful journey.
Fantastic. Well, once again, for those that want to register for the lecture, just visit the Ontario Heritage Trust website and follow the links to the S.E. Edugyan lecture. Thank you, Dawson, for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
Well, that concludes our very first Beyond the Underground Railroad Forum. That was fun, eh, guys?
Yes, it was. Very educational.
So there's lots happening for Black History Month, and we wanted to kind of tee up what's coming up at each of the sites this year. So Sammy, why don't you take it away?
Sure. So coming up this spring, we're going to have our annual CK Black History Symposium. This year it's going to be virtual. It's always held the first Saturday in May. For any more information about the museum and archives here at the Chatham-Kent Black Historical Society, visit our website at ckbhs.org or follow us on Facebook at www.facebook.com/ckbhs, and you can find all extra information on there.
Fantastic. And so here at Uncle Tom's Cabin, we'll be celebrating our annual Emancipation Day event. That will be on July the 31st. We're hoping it will be in person, but we may do another virtual celebration this year. For any resources to help you out with Black History Month and telling these important stories, we encourage you to go to the Ontario Heritage Trust website and visit our Slavery to Freedom online web resource, where you'll see a number of places that you can visit, different Underground Railroad sites throughout the province, our plaque program that talks about the Black history throughout the province, and our signature magazine, Heritage Matters, with lots of interesting content on Black history here in the province. So visit our website, www.uncletomscabin.org, and we look forward to connecting with you soon.
And we at the Buxton National Historic Site Museum will be celebrating our 98th Labor Day homecoming celebration. Again, hopefully we will be able to do it face-to-face, but if not, we will also be doing it virtually, September 3 to 6 this year. Also check our Facebook page and our website, www.buxtonmuseum.com, for further information on other events or other activities and other resources, archives, family trees, etc. Or give us a call at the museum at 519-352-4799. Thanks. And now, to end our very uplifting and inspiring day, we're going to be presented with a song by Cameron Dudley, and she'll be singing Glory by Common and John Legend. Cameron is a descendant from the Buxton settlement and is a very inspiring young lady who is very gifted and is very talented. So take it away, Cam.
One day, when the glory comes, it'll be ours, it'll be ours. Oh, one day, when the war is won, we will be sure, we will be sure. Oh, glory. Hands to the heavens, no man, no weapon formed against, yes, glory is destined. Every day women and man become legends. Sins that go against our skin become blessings. The movement is a rhythm to us. Freedom is like religion to us. Justice is juxtaposition in us. Justice for all just ain't specific enough. One son dies, the spirit is revisiting us. True living in us. Resistance is us. That's why I rose aside on the bus. That's why we walk through Ferguson with our hands up. When it go down, we woman and man up. They say stay down, and we stand up. Shots, we on the ground. The camera panned up. King born into the mountaintop, and we ran up. One day, when the glory comes, it'll be ours, it'll be ours. Oh, one day, when the war is won, we will be sure, we will be sure. Oh, glory. Oh. Now the war is not over and the victory isn't won, but we'll fight till the finish, and when it's all said and done, we'll cry glory, glory. We'll cry glory, oh glory. Whoa, yeah. Some is now for every man, woman, and child. Even Jesus got his crown in front of a crowd. They march with the torch, we gon' run with it now. Never look back, we done gone hundreds of miles. From dark roads, heroes, to become a hero. Facing the League of Justice, his power was a people. Enemy is lethal, a king became regal. Saw the face of Jim Crow under a bald eagle. The biggest weapon is to stay peaceful. We sing, our music is the cuts that we bleed through. Somewhere in a dream we had an epiphany. Now we right the wrongs in history. No one can win the war individually. It takes the wisdom of the elders and young people's energy. Welcome to the story we call victory. The coming of a Lord, my eyes will see the glory. One day, when the glory comes, it will be ours, it'll be ours. Oh, one day, when the war is won, we will be sure, we will be sure. Oh, glory. When the war is won, when it's all said and done, we'll cry glory. Oh,